I'll call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The special meeting covers approval of the 2025 preliminary budget. Sophie, do you?
Okay, I'll just mention a couple of things just to make clear, kind of maybe get Miranda up to speed to understand how this works too. So in here we have our general fund, which is what we budget for. That is where our levy comes from, and that is what is portrayed onto the tax statement, which is our 100 fund. Our 201 fund is our highway fund. We get a state highway distribution monthly, and that is kind of what we work off of for anything streets, highways, mowing, all those expenses kind of get correlated into that 200 account, and we try to balance that to the best of our ability between what's projected to come in from the state versus our expenses for that year. We don't really levy for those, so if we need to put, there is a section under the general for equipment that we can levy for, to get that revenue to come in from our taxpayers. That we could put it onto the general for that, because we do have an equipment side for that. Our 500 account is all our specials, so those are the lovely things that increases taxes that we're going through right now. Our 601 is our water. 601, 602, and 603 are all enterprise funds. They cannot be used for anything other than water, sewer, and garbage. So water, more or less, our revenue comes from our monthly water bill. We do have 2 debt service funds that take a huge hit in our water fund currently, but one will be expiring after we pay our 2025 taxes. That one will come off, and we still will have another one for our water treatment plant renovations that's still on there. Sewer, we have a lot of money in. We have not spent a lot of that, but that will take a hit come 25 when we have to pay for our sewer gutters. But it's sufficient, it's self-sustaining, it's great. Garbage, it's not a fund to really make money in. We have enough money in there as long as we can cover our costs and get a little bit more, so we can charge a little bit more extra for second codes. But more or less based off of what we signed our contract for, and we just signed a new 5-year contract with Circle in 23. So those amounts we know for the next 5 years of what they will charge us. And then basically anything extra that we do have in there, I think it's like set for like 18,000 in that fund, then helps offset for our city cleanup weeks if we have to have extra roll-off, or if we have to have extra roll-off at the end of the year, because when we sign our contract we get 24 roll-offs per year. And then if we need more at the end of the year to get our drafts moved out or whatever, then we get charged for those, but then we always have that money sitting in there to help cover that cost. That's kind of a rundown on that. We do have wages that come out of everything. Mine is separated off. Elected officials all come out of the general. I strictly come out of the general. Erica strictly comes out of the general. And Studio Genesis strictly comes out of the general, and then it's the 3 guys out there, how they're broken up, which is kind of how I determined where all the wages came out of for those funds based off of Adam is 20% highway, 60% water, and 20% sewer, and then we have Zach and Steven at 20% general, 20 highway, 30 water, and 30 sewer. So that's kind of how I broke down the calculations based off of a 7% increase is what he told me to go with, and that's where you see all their kind of how their wages spike out and everything is all broken out throughout those different categories. Our taxable value, just to start off with that, I guess, for next year is $1 mil is worth $5,307. We can't really speak in terms of mills anymore because the taxable value changes every year. So the legislature did change that to talk in terms of taxable value, kind of what we're levying now. Just because 1 mil is not the same every single year. So if we levy 64 mils this year, but then it looks like we're levying 78 the next year, it's not a true accurarization of increasing by 13 mils because that taxable value is always changing. So
How much is it on?
5,307 and 42 cents. Our taxable value is 5,307,473.
Yep.
Divide that by 1,000, and that's where you get that number. I guess I just want to mention too, I think as we're sitting right now, it's high, it's 20, last year was 345 just in the general of what it is, and this year it's 365. So we're looking at, I think it was 78 or 87 mils. We can levy up to 105. My concern, and this can be increased today if we feel we need to do that. We cannot increase it after we submit our preliminary, we can only decrease it. I do have a webinar next week that will talk about this property tax measure again. So if you haven't looked into that or don't know what it is, a property tax measure, if it passes in November, will freeze our levy at what we put in for 2025. We will not have to go more or less, I mean, to keep the budget, but we're stuck. That property tax measure passes, every city is limited to what they receive based off of what you submit for this year. We can look at putting it high because we're capped then from here going out. If it doesn't pass, we have now just increased our taxes. But if it doesn't pass, we could also drastically reduce the following year to compensate for that. That would decrease our taxes. My only concern is I know we have a special that is going on this year. The Wolves had a huge hit last year with their bond because their bond went on for your 2024 taxes. Our new special will go on for 2025. And then if we even increase even more, a huge hit on a lot of our residents. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if I'll have more information after our webinar next year based off of what they're thinking. I just know that if it passes, it's going to be a huge burden to the cities and their funding.
The final budget is October?
Yes.
Okay. By then, I don't know whether there would be any polls, any indication of where this referendum is at. Polls are polls.
Mm-hmm.
So if a person did, because this is just preliminary, like she said, you can go down, but you can't go up. So I don't know whether we have any more indication in October, because we could drop it then. If polls show that it didn't have a fair passing, but I don't know whether there would be both,
So looking at it now, it looks as if you might have increased some things a little bit, but not really a compensation like what you're talking about.
Correct.
More so just like this was this, but it might just be adjusted by 5% or whatever. So yeah, and if I understand correctly, if we did like raise everything and then that was not used, it would just be sitting in that fund or whatever it was allocated to. Right?
Yeah, because that general fund kind of can sit there, and what it's allocated for. So I guess if we chose to do that, my suggestion would be to increase, like our equipment fund, because then we have that money put aside already.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other one I think I was thinking of, but I guess because then you're putting it there and then we're that far ahead already, I guess if we're gonna do it. So I know we have an equipment fund that we put in $10,000 for the fire department, and then we kind of have started our own. Those are two of them that I would look at maybe increasing just to get that money in there. And then the following, like I said, if it doesn't pass, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the right answer is.
Everybody's going to pay on that stuff.
Yeah.
So if we did bump it up, can you just put it in the general fund and leave it there for that year. If it doesn't pass, then you can move that out of general fund to feed the other funds, correct? Or can't you?
Like to our enterprise funds?
Right.
Well, that's why I think,
Or you have to bump every one of them and then not have so many guys next year.
right, we would just lower it, so instead of like,
You'd raise across the board and then drop across the board the following year.
yeah, let's not, just in general, our enterprise funds really don't matter for that. They're based off of really what I project, we're gonna get in revenue based off of, on average, I do 550 water bills. What our water bill account is, and revenue kind of goes off that, same with our sewer, what that is. And then, so that wouldn't really matter, but it would just be a general fund, but we could drastically decrease that the following year because like, we wouldn't have to put in, say we increase our equipment fund to 50,000 for this year, because that gives us one place to put it. Well, then we just put 2 years worth of funding in there, so then next year, we wouldn't have to put it in there.
Okay.
We can leave that out. So that would be, excuse me, say $25,000 right off the bat if we do 25 and 25, just as a generic number. It's never been that high. That's why I would increase that fund just to be on the safe side for this, but then that's where we can reduce it for next year. There's a couple other things that we could put in there. To increase that, then if it didn't pass and we wanted them to help them out the following year, we could decrease without it being a hit, where we know, like, we always have a repairs and maintenance. We're always going to need funding, but there's other couple things in there that we could go through. If you would want to look at increasing oil, I just thought the equipment one would be a good one because we know we need a new tractor. We're probably going to need a new pickup coming up sometime within the next couple of years. So if we just increase that, then it's designated for that, it's set aside, then we just don't have to use it for the following year if we need to reduce it somewhere along the line if it doesn't pass.
Can the equipment fund be used for repairs as well on equipment, existing equipment?
It could be. We have to set that aside for like $10,000 just so we know it's equipment, so that when they say, hey, we want to go purchase this, they already have a head start.
Yeah.
Repairs, we kind of have a different category for that.
Yeah, I see.
But essentially, yeah, I think you could, but yeah, we have to start using that one so that we build that up gradually and it's not a huge hit.
Sure.
When we have to go and pay that or say, hey, okay, now we know next year we need it, and you have to put that full
Yeah.
80,000 in there.
And then you wouldn't have to use much one-set money too.
Right, yep.
So it's just, like, strategically thinking, it's kind of a risk that we need to take if it passes or not, we have no information on that. And if it does pass, and we don't do something about it, we could possibly limit ourselves and not be able to either pay something or just really be hobbling along because it was not set that way. Whereas if we were to increase, like just for easy numbers, like say our total tax rate $1,000, obviously not. But if we increase it to $1,200 for this year, so everyone's tax would go up, obviously not a good thing that we want to do. But then we're able to decrease it the following year, knowing that it passed or did not pass to like 90. So then it would kind of compensate for everyone this year to be everyone that hit this year. But then the next year, they could be compensated with everything going back down.
Correct.
And that's obviously, yeah.
Another
We
thing.
could inform people about that instead of us just like, some people would know, hey, why did this go up like 20%? Or whatever it be, but just a thought.
And that was my thinking of if we decide to do that, and they see when their preliminary tax payment does go out at the end of August, and they have it, and they're like, holy cow. There will be another webinar next week, I believe it's the 15th. If anybody is in town and wants to come and watch it, I'll put it up, Eric and I are both going to watch it. But then after that, once they give more information, we can really start educating our residents of what this property tax measure is essentially going to do. It's the small communities like ourselves and our volunteers and our townships and all them smaller EMTs or volunteer like that are really going to take the hit because that funding's not going to be there. It's going to be, and I don't know where the state's going to go look to get it. Because what we're receiving from the state is just what we put in this year. And then we're they make up for that, I'm not even sure. And where they're taking that out of, I'm not 100% sure. The legacy fund has been mentioned. Wow, that'll be completed real quick.
Right, if I understand correctly, it'll be a little bit before they'd be able to react to it in legislature. Is it already been in session next year, or it'll be at least a year or so before anything gets fully?
I think legislators next year.
Yeah.
Or is it,
Because
it wouldn't be that
there's
long?
an off year.
Yeah, odd years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess it wouldn't be that long, 'cause I'm thinking like, wow, because it'll obviously get voted in.
But there was something about that, I believe, in our last webinar, where it would take a few years for it to even be acted upon. So it might take 2 years.
Oh,
In other words, you would have so we don't know whether we would have opportunity next year at this time to make our bump,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Or, or whether it's froze.
Yeah.
But
And I guess I don't know all their legalities and powers in legislatures, if they can do anything, because it is a vote of the people.
yeah.
So to me, I don't think they could. It would have to go back until another election, because it was passed by the vote of the people. It would have to be disapproved by the vote of the people.
Right.
well, even beyond that, with legislature, like, it's not like they move extremely fast. You know,
Yeah.
so if it would pass, then, and we've been reasoning about it, we'd be crippled with no help from legacy or whatever it may be for at least a year or two.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit. Just
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what they said was, like, spend on it for at least 2 years,
Right.
sitting stuff where you're at in our first webinar that we had. And I can get everybody the information for that if you would like to attend that. But it is put on by the League of Cities, and they did one prior, and now that they have a signature again, they will, but they're doing another one.
So yeah, I mean, letting the people know why, if we're raising it, why we're raising it.
Yeah.
And then other thought I had, if the stuff, like if we're doing a account for equipment, is that collecting interest rates? Or, I mean, is it just sitting there stagnant, or, because I know with interest rates, now we can kind of go in, say to the downtown bank, if you have money sitting there, you can put them in kind of basically CDs, like short-term CDs where they make you some money. Is that an option? If we do have somewhat of a stockpile because of this, we could try to make the money go further.
Right, like, so you say we'll put in 50,000 for that, if we don't use it, it doesn't get used, take that 50,000 and put it into a CD, so it's being
Yeah,
interest on that, because yes, technically, the answer would be no if it's not in a CD.
because I was talking to Tony down at the bank, and with the interest rates where they are now, where they're higher, you can kind of make them work for yourself, and, like CDs, a lot of times you have to do like 5 or 10 years. Well, if you kind of have it allocated, even if it's just a year, and you had a purpose for it, like a piece of equipment, you could put it in there and kind of work with him on it, and you could take it out in a kind of a planned manner, and then, you could kind of build some interest on it.
Sure.
And what's weird is that, like, money markets have gone backwards, where the short term needs more interest than the long term ones. You can put stuff in 6 months at a time, short term, and actually gain more interest than if you have a 2 or 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I mean, so it's available to you more readily.
And we could even do that, I guess, after the first of the year, so say we do go and put, increase that equipment one, we put the 50,000. If we know we're not using, we could just go and take that 50,000 and have Tony move it over into a CD after the beginning of the year.
Yeah, something like that, just, so the citizens, see that, here's what I'm sitting there still. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea, and I would almost go for like doing it right away, rather than waiting to see if we use it, because I mean, we wouldn't have had it anyways, so if like the unforeseen happens and something breaks down, like we would have been limping before, now we're actually investing and having something work for us right away. And then we get that extra however many times, so it's like, we have a plan.
Right.
We're doing this right away, we're gonna be earning money on this, and like, let's say it's $10,000, we earn $9,500 effectively would cost, but if we're saving that $500 for everybody. Obviously, it's a lot more than that, but, I like thinking about simple numbers, it's easier, but.
Anyway, it's easier.
Right, so that's a really good idea, I think.
So you're just looking at mainly equipment, Jamie, or other? I had some things highlighted, but I was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, is there anything else that needs, I mean, like roads are definitely, you know, what about, are we ever gonna chip seal, or are we ever, you know, are we ever gonna do, I know, I gotta talk to Adam a little bit, but it seems like there's a bit of thing to keep maintaining, not just new roads.
Right. Yep.
So do we need to do anything with that, or?
Yeah, main repairs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
I kind of wanted to say things that's kind of higher on my priority list of things that we need to take care of. Some potholes and alligator cracking and stuff like that, so. Chip sealing,
And is that specifically is that general, or is that like the highway area?
So majority of that comes out of highways, but for tarring and like our patching, we can levy for that. So that can come out of the general.
And are we currently levying for that?
We do, yes.
I don't remember.
It comes out of public works, highways and streets, and then it's just that repair and maintenance. So it's like line one
Oh,
seventy.
there it is, 170, yeah.
Yep, and I did increase that a little bit more for this year as well, but we could also even bump that up a little bit more if you'd like.
Yeah, 'cause we did increase it 50% from last year. From 40 to 60. I mean, yeah, I guess probably. Good. We use a very small amount of that.
yeah.
We, haven't paid our asphalt repairs, that hasn't been done,
So,
so that'll be this fall, so that's where that number comes from, because a lot of the repairs and maintenance for streets and highway, a lot of that does come out of the 201, but we can levy for tarring and all that kind of stuff, so that's where that gets paid out of, and that hasn't been done, so, yeah, it's pretty minimal this year.
sure.
What's 172? It doesn't have a, has a number there, but not a percentage unit.
Great question. Oh, that's the total,
Oh, that's it.
total highways and streets.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure why that sum is right there, I must have forgot to delete that, sorry. I'll fix that, thank you.
How much of that budget do you think will get used up when this gets paid out? If repairs and maintenance?
Of the,
Adam had a quota.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna use all of it.
I'm trying to remember what it was, any other numbers, I guess, but.
Did you have any quote that Adam had with
I did, I was gonna actually talk to him about that.
Oh, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I got it here,
I was just wondering on this.
yeah, to be, that's the concrete at least, I'm not sure if the patching's on there.
Oh, okay. Wasn't the commission last year talking about getting some kind of container to hold tarring?
That's the other thing that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Talking about changing,
Way of doing it.
yeah, using a different product too. I was gonna talk to him about that.
Something has to be done differently than what was done this year.
Yeah.
Different, and they're all aware of that as well, they all are in the same agreement to that, it's just, what, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up in this, I didn't know if we could talk about that in this meeting or not, but, he did send me this, and I didn't know if you wanted to type on the group, I'd go talk to Adam about some of the different things on the, like the concrete and the asphalt, like we're talking, I don't know if that's part of this, if I should just go talk to him or,
He's gone,
oh.
he's on vacation, so, I mean, if those I know are close, and that stuff's gonna be done this year. The tarring, I guess, is something that maybe we should look at, and that is another expense then that could be increased into that, because if something has to be done differently.
Yeah, whether we go to a different product or a different machine.
Mm-hmm.
Cause they make I don't know if you talked to Jamie about that bale machine, where your car kinda comes in a bale and you put it in there and then it heats it, dispenses it instead of storing it, like a tank type storage.
Yeah.
Is that the block?
A block, yeah, that'd be a better name than a bale, I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
I was just making sure I was on that we were on the same page, yeah.
Yeah.
like, Tuesday back Monday then, or
We're back in next Tuesday.
next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay. No meetings next Tuesday, Monday.
Monday, yeah. But here's the thing, it's not to say that we can't add it in right now, because like I said, we can cut this, we just cannot increase anything. So if you do want to talk to them more on it, get more information, and say, you know, we really don't need this much or this, we can always cut it forward, because we have to have a public hearing, and approve it, you know, before October 10th anyway, and have the final submitted. So we can always decrease it, we just can't increase it.
Mm-hmm.
So people are gonna then see where their taxes are sitting and get mad from the get-go, but we can always decrease it.
Looks like the water and sewer does pretty good, right? I mean, that's pretty heavily funded.
The water, not as much as the sewer,
The water, we've had to raise rates a couple of times in the last year, because like Chelsea said, excuse me, with that, when that flowing through, lack of better words, comes off, then we're gonna be better off. We're just kind of staying above water. on
Yeah.
that fund, so.
our sewer fund is very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
There's money in there. Our water is doing okay. I mean, it's not terrible
Right.
by any means, but we have over like $200,000, I think it is, in debt that we have, but that one will come off. Our last payment will be made for that, and then it's done. So our water will be sitting a lot better after that last debt service gets paid. And then we shouldn't, well, I shouldn't say that because I can't predict the future. It'll be sitting a lot better.
Okay.
And then it, depending what happens with this intake thing, there's still negotiations there. That debt there might be replaced with some other type of.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know, if any of that sewer should kind of go to roads at all, or
If we,
don't want to route either, but,
right, I know what you're saying. You know, and you're aware of, you know, our lagoon system and stuff like that. When the guy that did the dredging looked at me and said, you know, you guys are gonna have to do some major repairs and replacements, you know, because that's what he does for a job. So I would hesitate to take too much out of there, and then 5 years down the road, let's say that we do have an influx in our infrastructure as far as homes coming in. I would hate to have taxed that account and then all of a sudden we gotta figure out how to pay, say, $500,000 in updates. I mean, that's why it's in there for that,
right,
just for future.
yeah, none of that stuff will be cheap when it does happen.
No, that's why I hate to deplete it. But like you said, if we could make money for us in the meantime.
Yeah.
And if I may ask, that's something, just so I understand this correctly, the water and sewer, that's something that we can do? We can move funds around, like let's say we profited off the garbage service for whatever reason, charge an extra 10%, could that then be used for whatever, beautification or anything?
No.
So what you
A
talked about,
percentage. I believe a percentage that was not used at the end of the year from water, sewer, is it like 10%, could be moved into the general?
oh,
But no, I can't take, say, 200,000 from sewer and move it into streets. Because we're charging for that service, so it's just for that account. Now, if you wanted to take some of that money and possibly move it to maybe like infrastructure or whatever, knowing that it's sitting in there, that's an option. But
Okay.
no, we couldn't take, say, like, we have $600,000 sitting in our sewer, we can't take 200,000 of that
right,
and move it over into highways to compensate some of that.
General fund, is that the only one you could really do that with?
Correct, yep.
so
A
by design,
percentage we could of it, but not a large portion.
Okay.
Yep,
by design, they're supposed to be self-sufficient then, right? That's the
Correct.
idea, it's
Yeah.
not like they get in tax, like you're making extra money off your garbage, and then that's how you're funding everything else, so you're
Yeah.
making your mills look lower, so if your taxes are lower, no, they aren't, you know,
yeah.
so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because those ones are all the ones you're charging for a service and you're receiving that money.
Yep.
So they should try to offset I mean, obviously you have to make money in specific water because we have repairs. We have our water treatment plant, and that's got some issues of its own right now, and getting our pumps and actuators all fixed and that. So I mean, yeah, you want to see that money in there, but you can't take charge for that and then take it over and put it over here.
The corporation and their own entity in the
Yeah,
corporation.
yeah.
That was a creative example, though, you use garbage money for beautification.
I really would have done, but.
You must be speaking their language.
You can color the garbage cans, I mean, technically, right?
Yeah.
So if you do it through the paint, like they do in Bismarck, it does electrical panels, but anyway. Everybody sees what it's good time.
I have a question.
Yes,
For the water salesman,
yes.
what's our rate at now?
0.003.
And what kind of increases have we had over the last couple of years?
We just increased that from the beginning of this year because they changed, to be PCS compliant, we had to put a new, we don't have internet to that machine, but we changed it, I don't even know back, I think shortly after I started. They used to have fuel cards, we do not use those anymore, it's strictly just credit card based. Well, with this whole thing to be PCA compliant, even though there's absolutely no internet to that, it'd be hard to scale anybody, so we had to put in a monitor back system to be PCI compliant. Nothing was expensive. So we had to raise our unit rate. We do make a little bit of money on it. I hate that machine, if I'm being honest. We've had a lot of issues with it, with the printer, or the one, I don't even know what happened back in May when we had a power outage. That whole thing like reset itself. So it was charging an astronomical amount of money. So I had to get those credit cards, and that was, I had to pay them back. The farmers that had been using it, that kept track of it. So we got a couple issues with that where we had to have ODA come and fix it. But those are the most expensive that we've had on that machine in probably the last 5 years.
So we are making just a little bit of money.
Yeah, yeah. And the summer months are really good, obviously, because the farmers use it and DOT uses it a bunch. We do see some money in there. It slows down in the winters, but it's to be expected.
Okay.
Quick question, is this what you sent before? I kind of highlighted some stuff on this one, is this the same as this one?
This is the thing, yep, I just reprinted it, because I didn't know if you guys would bring the card up, just so you have them, it's easier to look at.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions on any of the areas?
Yes, my legs.
I just, nothing major, I just, I didn't know how we're gonna go through this, if we're gonna go line item by line item, or how we're gonna do this.
What's your question? I'm good. You can start there, then maybe we'll raise things as we go through it.
So even without this initiative, you were looking at going up from 345 to 365.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
And I struggled,
yeah.
with knowing what to do. And that's kind of, I guess, just where my thoughts were without, I guess, the consensus and your guys' approval of raising things a lot. That's just where I brought up those couple funds that I know we could put in there. The library and airport, they are, and the forestry board, the library and airport, pay their own bills, but we levy their money for them, so we're pretty much just a pass-through for them. We put it in, and then as the money comes in, the county just distributes it to them. They are capped at 4 mils. We always just levy the max for them, and then they get that. State the fire department, 4 mils, and then I pay them quarterly. And the park board, they submit their budget, but the park board themselves are completely on their own. They submit their own budget, they pay their own bills, they are more or less just a subdivision of the city, but their own entity as well.
This is a quick thing on the tax statement, it says with this stuff, with our stuff.
We are combined, yes.
Combined, yeah.
So on that tax, I was gonna put one off too, sorry about that. On the tax statement, when it lists the city, that is the city of Washburn, that is the park board. That's including the library, the airport, the forestry. Park board, I don't know, did I say that one? It is everything. It is not just the city of Washburn, and I think that's where some people get confused, where they're like, well, they're what? It's not just the city. It's all of the city entities as a whole.
And the forestry, we pay their bill.
Correct.
I mean, they have their $8,000 a week to their bill.
Yep. Yep. They submit the receipts to us, and they all come here and we pay theirs. They're the only ones who pay. They are the only ones who still continue to pay their bill for.
And when they get their grant payback at the end of the year, they'll actually be well under their 8,000, so.
Oh, good. Yep.
Yep. That's a special assessment deficiency fund, that's where a couple went backwards or didn't get charged.
Yes.
Right.
That was the one that was increased, I believe, expensive the year before I came back, just going up. And then we just kind of have been levying for that because there are still a couple special assessments that we are showing a negative on. But yeah, that's just kind of to help compensate for that when because we're not receiving enough money.
And this is the amount we're asking for, or?
Yep, that's the total amount. Yep.
Okay.
So our general, right now we're sitting at that 365, but then including the library, the airport, and then additional 10,000 for our special deficiency, what would go on there would be that 420.
And last year, how much, or?
396, 359, 40.
Almost 30,000 more than last year.
Mm-hmm. And that's increasing both the library and airport as well with the different taxable value for them to get matched with their mills.
I just had a specific line item question.
Yeah.
For 22, on the general fund, oil and gas production, which is the century code and that sort of stuff, and it was 40/40 for the budget for the past 2 years, and it was like 32/34 actual, and then increased to 80, like doubled. Like what did something change with like legislation or something, or?
They give out projections per capita of what they expect that to be. That's, I guess, kind of how I base all of those state funding ones, based off of the information they give me, minus coal and the coal conversion and coal severance, just because that's a little bit different.
Okay.
But I guess that's kind of how I base those numbers off of, just with the projections that the League of Cities provides us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering if there's like, you change with oil and gas or something like that, like.
Yeah, I know, they did drastically, they got projected a drastic hit for this year.
Gotcha.
Based off of what happened at the end of 22 when they put them out there, because 22 was low, but that's kind of where I get those numbers from.
Sure. Then my next one would be just the Sea Line Sound 31 with the memorial building grant. You increased it obviously to 500 more, but our year to date is double that. So I guess why was it so much more this year?
During church.
Really?
During church paid us a good amount of money to be in there, and they were very well respectable. But yes, we can thank them for.
Wow, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I rented a whole building for 2 days this weekend, I did on Saturday.
They went on Saturday evening, yep, and were in there all day Sunday, and they had upstairs, downstairs, so they, yeah.
Okay. No, that makes a lot more sense. In my mind, I was like, well, they're out there, there's much basketball, and
Yeah.
it did make sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was during church.
Thank you.
The 30, the one just above that, interest range, what's that one for?
That is the interest we receive monthly from our general fund. So we have 5 accounts, and we receive interest on them every month, based off of what's in there. And interest rates have kind of come back up, so we're seeing a little bit higher monthly interest earnings for a couple of those.
I guess my next, yeah, I'm 68 with professional development, so it's still in income. It looks, or sorry, this wouldn't be income, whatever it is. We went down to 700, it used to be like 1,000, that's for like conferences and stuff.
Yes.
So, you're just like me, it seems so where we do like more fees per diem, or is it, I guess it'd be about the same per diem, but, like, are we going to less conferences now, or like, why is it a little bit less, or whatever?
I kind of use those based off of just what I know our spring and fall conferences cost.
Oh, those don't count for Adams conferences? Those usually free.
This is just, under this account, is for the auditors, so that's just me.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
And then there's another professional development for, I think, or just under non-departmental, which honestly does not have an amount in it. So I think I moved them under, I'm trying to not use non-departmental as much as possible. There's things that fall into that, but when it pertains to city staff, I try to go under there. So like, Water has their own professional development, because I know he tends to do water conferences. There are a couple different sewer things, so I did that to fully put a little bit of money in those as well. And then general. Let me look at this, maybe I didn't add it, and then just line, or I can just put it under non-departmental. I might need to increase that, I guess, and put that to 700 as well. Because Erica has been attending those. I don't have a line item for it. So under non-departmental, I am going to increase the professional fees, or sorry, not professional fees, professional development, where there is, line 87. And I'm going to put that at 700 as well.
Gotcha. No, I think I was just confused because I knew that the other ones were separated, like the actual wages and that sort of stuff. But it didn't trickle down in my mind that the conferences are also separate.
Yes.
So. Because I was like 700 for 4 employees, it's very, very low. Continuing that and that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. But.
And a lot of Adams gets paid back from the state, so that's nice. If you can get his state's reimbursed. But thank you, because I figured I need to make sure I have that other one in there.
It seems like legal fees, there's, zero there. Is that under professional fees, or like Wendell, wouldn't be expensive still, or is that in a different spot?
Yes, what line item is it? Oh, legal.
71.
There's $1,000 in there. Typically, I have not had a bunch of legal fees that we pay Lindell up until the last 8 months to deal with his, special assessment and the stuff that he did. And some of that then all falls underneath that project because they're all recuperated costs within that project.
Okay.
And speaking of recuperating costs within that project, why are the engineering fees so high? Like way beyond like what we have budgeted for twice now. And and it's great that you upped it even more, but like, are we asking for like extra little things, or like what's happening?
So, and you can, every month I get a description, when we get HVAC bills, I get a description from Eric, what they're being paid for. Anything to do with that street project, what I'm there, but if it's just general engineering fees where, like, it's not even project yet, I'll just use like Boat Ramp Road and that slide area, like some of that stuff has just been general engineering fees.
Oh, okay.
So it's just those little basic things that we're getting a little bit of information from, or having them look at this or that, but it's not, and some of those general engineering fees is monthly meetings here, and when they're not correlated to a direct project, like where the street project is. I see if we've had to deal with, one of their other engineers for a water treatment plant, that those falls underneath there, but just those basic little things that he's been looking at, they all fall underneath that general.
But it's like having them look over on the other side of that, those roads too.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's one of those too.
Yeah.
Or if you ask him to, what do you think of this idea with it? Would that be more cost effective to do this or do that? When he comes back with that data, you charge for that.
Right.
All the research that's done on that, so.
we have to be careful what we ask for.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
So whenever it's constant, like, okay.
Yeah.
Especially you need it, yeah.
If you're gonna have, I mean, when he comes back to this stuff, you pay for all these, so, it's probably quite a bit an hour.
Which is reasonable,
Which is
obviously,
reasonable,
yeah, but-
yeah.
And all of the rates are all broken down, they are all listed on the East-West bill. If there's ever any questions, or if you wanna look more at that of what is considered general, it's all in there, so.
Gotcha, and that's when you can have, like, look at it and it's like, okay, so this is a high bill, and
Yeah.
we only have like this much budgeted, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stevie, what's under professional fees, or what's that,
Non-parental, maybe that's what I included, that's why I didn't have anything underneath that professional development, I put everything, and some of those professional fees are. That one. Another example, 4150. I'll pull up that, account statement, so with all that paid out of there this year. So our Collier Securities has been paid out of there, that is our bond, so our continuing exposure. We had to have stop payment, so that one went out of there. For a check.
what were the bonds?
Collier Securities, so anytime, those type of things that we pay for, which is our bond counsel. We have to pay them. This might be backwards. So our professional fees are only 1193, which is under audit fees. So I'm gonna make that adjustment in the spreadsheet, because we have not used $17,000 out of it.
Okay. I was gonna say, that was quite,
Yes.
I just kinda went across.
No,
the
yeah, thank you, yeah.
And then,
So now let me go look up audit fees. Those should be kind of low too. We do have a check that will be in, our August bills to be paid. So at 17,892 should be under computer and equipment. I'm going to move these all up. Which, that includes, our energy contract. That includes, our Black Mountain contract, those kind of fees, that we pay. Energy is monthly, and then our software one comes out of there as well.
that's for like the backup and that,
Correct, yep, yep. I want support. So I will make. And that 24,7240 is workers' comp.
Do you have any more questions on the general fund?
I do, I'm just waiting maybe.
Yes, go ahead.
I thought you were doing something.
Nope.
else. So on page 4, 207, the total general fund, all those numbers are negative, right? Like, so our expenditures are more than our revenue.
Correct.
Okay, I was just curious because one has a negative symbol and the other one has a parentheses, so I wasn't sure if there's any being different with that.
No bullshit.
No problem, I was just, yeah. So my question is like, how, we're like losing money every year? Is that the basic of it? Like, I'm just like, I'm a simple guy, you know.
I know.
We're a nonprofit.
Okay.
I mean, I guess
understand
in the
that.
grand scheme of things, yes, because so we don't know what our year is gonna bring. I mean, do we have money in our bank account? Yes. But when it comes to a budget, which is strictly just that, I mean, it's what we're projecting to receive, considering what we're projected to expense, we're negative.
Right.
Do you want to take away some of those expenses to make it more even? We could. Do you want to increase some of that revenue to not show such a deficit? We could. Which then, I guess, to offset, because we don't have those numbers in there for that revenue based off of what we're flooding. We don't put in there what we're going to receive for that tax number. That's less flooding. So we might receive $1,000 in revenue, but that is not shown on this because that's the number we levy for.
And that's what I was looking at, so we're in our budget, we're currently negative $503,000, and we're levying for us specific, or I guess would it be the 420 or 360 that I should use? For the general fund, 360, right?
Yeah, because that's generally what's going to offset this.
So then, with how we're currently budgeted, at the end of the year, if all the budgets were correct, we could expect to be negative $140,000.
Correct.
Why? You know what I mean? Like, why? Like, does it come in somewhere else, or like, where is it? I don't know if this makes sense to you. What's missing then? And like, because if that is accurate and that is true, eventually that is unsustainable, right? I mean, because it's constantly negative, like there isn't like the bank account number is probably going down, maybe, you think? I don't know.
I think it sounds increasing.
But that's the thing, it's like increasing, so that doesn't, I don't get that, because if you're negative 140 and you're trending downwards every single year, like, how does that work? You know?
Different expenses that come in, and like, the state was for our state revenue was all projected.
Right.
We're all above what I believe was budgeted for 24. We're seeing upwards. Interest has gone up through, I get what you're saying, and we can do it, try to match, but that's then where we're gonna take away that levy, by decreasing a lot of these expenses.
Right.
Revenue, I don't like to mess with a whole lot, because those are projections, like I like to keep those, because that's kind of what we're based on and what we're seeing. Our expenses is where we fluctuate a lot. Our revenue's kind of set, this is what we get.
Right.
Or then that's where we turn around and increase that levy more to compensate that.
No, and that makes sense. Not in the same way where you're light on your income, like, and then heavy on expenses, just in a budgeting mindset, because then surprises aren't as surprising.
Right, yep.
So, yeah, I guess, but then I guess if we did like the equipment fund of $50,000 more, so then instead of being negative, $140,000, it'd be negative $90,000, technically, okay, so, yeah, and then I guess the downside of that is people would obviously have an issue that you're raising taxes and that sort of stuff, because nobody likes that sort of thing, but to be sustainable, I just don't believe we should lose money every year. Like a nonprofit, I know we're a nonprofit, like that sort of thing, like we're not running a business, but
I just threw that out there, but you're right, you definitely should spend continually pretty soon.
yeah, it's just like against my personal financial philosophy of deficit spending with bank loans with interest, and it's just like, ow, that hurts my head. But yeah, I don't know. So we just move more in that direction, I guess.
I guess before we do, is there anywhere to trim the fat, or is there,
Well, I mean in both ways, to trim that and increase it if necessary, for sure. Yeah.
before we just say put more money, is there any way to trim it anywhere?
Right.
what's city beautification? I mean, we went from budget 16 to like 4,800, and then going to 20.
That's for, we're trying to update Christmas lights,
Okay.
so that will have another expense coming out of it. Flowers down here, a lot of the tree plantings have been updated around town. We're looking at new park benches, just to try to clean up Main Street a little bit and make it a little prettier. And I want it all lit up, but.
But that does serve a good function, you know, for the economic development and that sort of stuff. It's, yeah, it makes sense. Because we did talk about that last year, where that to be added, I believe, this last year.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That 171, is that what's getting set aside for equipment or vehicles? Is that where that's at?
Yes.
That's one of them, because isn't there a fire truck one too, or is that the fire truck one?
Yeah, that's. With theirs. That's absolutely that one up. With their fire, running for the fire department, I have their transfer out as well of $10,000.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking.
Yep.
That's the fire truck?
Yep,
It was a pickup, right? A truck, right? Whatever.
the truck, yeah.
It's like a rescue truck, it's like a mix between the two, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then under the fire department, why would they have, like, electricity, gas, propane, because they're kind of sharing the same building as us or whatever.
Right.
So what,
Theirs is broken down because, so we see what their expenses are because they have that side of the building. So they have it's separated for that function of their portion of that.
and there is only one electrical meter and gas meter though, right? So how would you do that, or how is that all?
It's, when I receive all the bills, I get Memorial Hall, I get fire department, it's all broken down, however, they have it on their end. I guess I'm not sure, but yeah, when the statements come in, they're all separated out, for city hall, for fire department.
And if I'm not mistaken, they need that too, for when they put in their budget request form. Because then they need to have their expenses actually put in their request, kind of thing, or no?
Essentially, no.
Oh, no, okay.
Because we just pay it, but that way we see what the fire department is using versus it just being, it's still a city building, but they're in there so we can see what their expenses are, just because it's their usage.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, so like, maybe a hose got left on or whatever, like a very small example, but if there's a bigger case of that, and be like, hey, guys, let's
Mhm.
go and something, that makes sense.
Yep.
Like 170, we jumped up to 60. Not very much has been used, like 1,000 and then 1,500. We got 60, but is there a big repair bill coming, or?
Yeah, none of our patching, that's where our patching comes out of.
Oh, okay, that's,
So that will come out, hopefully, well, September, October, depending on. And then if there's some more patching that needs to be done next year, I know they're looking at a bigger amount, so that's why I increased that one.
okay.
And tarring, because I didn't know what was going to happen with where we just had for tarring after this year.
Yeah, so I seen vehicle there in repair and maintenance. I didn't know if that was like for repairing the equipment, but that's actually material for the road itself.
Yes,
Okay.
because that's the things we can levy for, yep.
Okay.
And then we created this vehicle fund, to start setting money aside because we know that we are gonna need a new pickup. Or a new tractor.
Yeah, and I guess not to make a big deal about it, maybe deficit spending is how city governments do that, I would just need that explained to me very slowly. It just seems like if we're in deficit, and we're definitely in deficit right now with this tax thing coming up, we would then lock ourselves in deficit spending with unknown, like, coming up ahead sort of thing, so it's kind of a weird situation to be in. Unless we can like find some cuts, or between cuts and maybe some raises or some sort of like money making thing we're talking about. Would probably be worthwhile, I guess.
Yeah, what would a series of, I know it's nice to have a good looking town, street lights or the Christmas lights and stuff, but is there a series of what's like absolutely necessary to run the town and then cosmetics where, we could absolute essentials and then down to less essential?
Oh, trust me, that's why we don't have all brand new Christmas lights.
Right.
Otherwise we would.
Yeah.
We had to get new ones for last year, because they're just old and they're not working anymore, so that's why we got those 4. We are looking at replacing the other 4 down here for this year. I believe the tree plantings have all been renovated. A lot of that stuff's been taken out, new stuff has been put in. I think they look very nice. As far as going from anything on that, no, I guess it's not a huge necessity.
Is this, Excel spreadsheet, is this something that could be shared, like emailed, and a guy could play with these numbers? I mean, not that you're gonna, just that a guy could, tweak stuff and then kind of do a what if
Yes.
scenario.
You're talking about a copy of it.
Yeah.
No,
No, I would send a copy.
Yeah, just a copy, and the guy could mess around with it.
The property that we own across the river for the water intake, are we still looking at utilizing that property?
Probably not, because I don't think the state water commission would give us any funding to go that direction. Yeah, so if you think what you're thinking is that property can go for sale.
Not yet.
Right, okay.
Not yet.
Thank you, okay, not yet.
I'm gonna say at least another year.
A lot of times when, and if
Do we still owe on it, or?
we don't pay for it,
Yeah, we don't do
this one pays for it.
The taxes we pay on it are like $3 a year.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, that Blue Point pays for that. But I think where Chelsea's going is that when you acquire property, as a tenancy, you have to keep it, I believe, 3 years, right?
something like that, yes, and I'm not ready to, fully lose that piece of property for intake.
Because
No, that's fine.
I think we're too early in the process.
Okay,
Because
that's why I'm just asking.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Anything that they talk about, the Red River Valley Water Supply Project, they do not mention this intake. It's all the canal.
Yep.
Right.
So, I don't want to go ahead, I'm not gonna say that within the next year, if something more concrete comes available, but at this point, no. Just because I'm still leery of what is, I know all the talks are out there, the contracts are out there.
Yeah.
But when they talk about the project, it's in our city scan magazines, we get articles sent out, anything that refers to the Red River Valley Water Supply Project, they do not mention anything up here. It's all from the canal.
Yeah.
So, I would hate to do something and then leave it back.
Right.
So,
No, that's fine.
yeah.
I was just wondering where that.
But yes, essentially we did that was the cost that Blue Flint incurred, and then, I believe when I wrote the tax statement, when I had to pay the taxes on that piece of property last year, because it's all the county, not McLean County, it was like $171. So, at least there, it's not a huge hit to the city for tax statement.
Sure. That's good to know. Good answer.
So if we approve approve this as preliminary, to the high, you have till October to do your trimming for the final.
Yeah, we'll have to set up a public hearing,
Right.
that has to be between the days of September 7th and October 7th. And that gives the public a chance to come and ask questions as to what and why, and yada, 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 but then also for those cuts to be made, that we don't tell them either, or those numbers need to be as high, and then those to do, and then by October 10th, the final has to be submitted to the county. So we have to approve it today, as is, increase, decrease, whatever we may do, and then we need to set that public hearing date as well, because that has to go on, because that goes, on a estimated tax payment that goes out. And that's how the residents are informed of that public hearing.
I'm saying still, keep your joke in there, because she's right, we wanna hold on to this until the very end.
Yep.
Because I know another meeting, I believe we're gonna be using dollars this time, with, Mahoney and Truck from Fargo. So, but everything's still totally up in the air, but.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's just a small trim that we could do. It's kind of what Jamie's talking about with the city beautification. Like, obviously an important thing, helps economic development, resident happiness, like it's important for sure. But since that's one that we're still trying to figure out, and we still have half of it left at our year to date, maybe just bring it back down to the 16 for now, unless there's a specific reason why it would need to increase, but since it's just something we're trying to figure out, we don't know if it needs to grow yet, so we don't necessarily need to grow it. But obviously it's something important to see how we can go from there, but then maybe that could be changed, because that'd be 4,000, which is a start.
And then, so that too, and then, I guess, with A2S, I guess, could we do some more powwow amongst ourselves before we kind of talk to them to keep our expenses down from the engineering too?
I think what you said earlier, you gotta be careful what you ask them,
Yeah.
because if, when you do ask them, well, is this more feasible than this, when they come back with that report, it might cost us a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that the more we do on our own,
Yeah.
the good point, you're better off you are, because every question you ask them, they do the research. I don't know how many guys are involved in doing that. They come back with very good work and a very accurate answer. What would pay for that? You know, so.
And do we agree to pay for that beforehand? Like, or is it just like, hey, what do you think about that electric pole over there? And then it comes back with a $20,000 bill.
No, I think it's more like when you ask a specific question of, okay, we would do this route versus the proposed route.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to cost us less money or more money? You know, you're asking them to give you an estimate. Well, they have to go through engineering costs, electrical, you know, they go through basically a whole bidding type thing to give you an accurate answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just say, well, can you just give me it off the wall? Well, I don't know, somewhere between 0 and a million, you know, kind of thing. So you have to really, if you ask them something specific, they're going to take you literal to give you something specific. You know, is that answer?
No, it totally does. And I'm just wondering, maybe we should just talk with Eric during our next meeting and be like, hey, so if we ask you something and it's going to cost money, like maybe you could let us know that right beforehand.
Like a work order or something.
Like a work order, right, yeah.
Yep.
So it's not just like we mention this in conversation and it comes back to a $2,000 bill.
Yeah.
Or even something, yeah, just,
Yeah.
so obviously value his work, not looking to not pay him, but maybe just clarification before it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he takes it literal, and yeah, I'll just get an accurate answer.
Yeah, but some of those have been like that, dealing with McLean County and Sheridan work with all of like that drainage fix and looking into those. The slideway down here, those phone calls to Terracon, those are all just getting lumped into general engineering. I do not believe he will be here on Monday.
Oh,
Yes, he is. He might call in and just listen. He asked me to call my cell phone, but he might not be here on Monday. Just FYI.
so maybe, we could just not ask him anything this month, and then on our next agenda, could we maybe put, talk to Eric, or just something like that, yeah.
And then also, do we actually, every month, do we need an engineering update?
Oh, for that cost? Yeah, could it be quarterly, you know, or?
Right, exactly, because sometimes it's repetitive,
Yeah.
you know, and you really went over it a lot last time for, you know, new people that are on, which is really good. But sometimes it's like, you've got these line items, well, there's really nothing new on this, because there isn't, but so, because you need to do your routine.
That's a good point, too.
Or like Jamie said, quarterly.
Yeah, can we put that on, I guess we could discuss it at this next meeting too, and just let them know, but I don't wanna like talk to them indirectly, then,
Right.
you know, like offend them or whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just kind of where that's discussed,
I
but.
mean, he does excellent work for us, but do we need him at every meeting?
Should we maybe put that on this agenda and then we'll start talking about it for the years, so we can talk about it at that meeting, would that be okay for you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So I guess we'll keep that one the same for now. It might be higher than if we fix it, so.
And another thought on this, if we're broke out for portfolios, say like streets or, buildings and grounds, whatever, is it hard to get like a quarterly report? Like, so if you gotta make decisions and hire somebody or get concrete or whatever, is there a way to keep track of your tallies where you're like, man, we're gonna go over our budget, you know, doing this? Is there a way to get that linked to the portfolio?
Yeah, we can, I think that's something else. More input from anybody else is great, especially if I try to get Adam on board and getting his, I don't know what goes on out there. I mean, to an extent I do, I don't know what they need, that's them. And I mean, typically that's how we are a small city, we don't have department heads, right? It's me, it's Adam. Where all that other stuff then falls back on the department heads because they have a water and sewer, they have a garbage, they have a streets and, you know, all those people where then they submit their budget and it's universal. But I can do it monthly. If you want it after I do my bank reconciliation for the month and I'm getting the tax report ready for the thing, I can send you just the streets. So it's not overwhelming, and you can look at it. You can see what was spent for the month, you can see where we're at for what was budgeted, you can see where we're at for the year, and then you can see where we're sitting. And that's sometimes what we did at the end of the year with Adam, and he asked for it, we looked for it. Like, hey, you guys need to not spend anything. Or, hey, we have this, what do you need? Let's get it done this year, it's already, you know, in there, but if you want the report monthly, I
think that'd be kind of neat because, yeah, you get to this budget, it gets kind of overwhelming. I mean, it kind of would, you know, break it down.
Right, and you have more of a draft and be able to understand it a little bit better than here's the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, which definitely makes sense, because like with department heads, I mean, this is whatever, but I think maybe with our city, you know, when there's 2 write-ins with less than 10 votes each, but there might not have been as an initiative or interest from commissioners before, and I'm not accusing them, but just in general, like, because the department heads would be us in a roundabout way.
Correct.
No, right, so then like kind of taking the bull by the horns, like, oh, okay, yeah, it's not just here, this, that, like Jamie's talking about, it might have been a little bit more lax, maybe, I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but just as a general sense, possibly it went in that direction when no one wanted to actually run for the position, which just makes sense in my head. But now we would have the ability to be like, okay, so we can take this, it's our budget, and this is cut. Yeah, it's ours.
I'm having more, I guess, myself even of knowing what to look at, what to do versus being thrown in and there you go. Figure it out. You know, so it's, but yeah, I mean, your guys' help, suggestions, I will take. I'm not gonna say, I don't want help.
I think that's what Adam with water and sewer, like, I mean, if there's an ammonia pump down, you know, he'll get a hold of me right away. If he has to, he'll call me and say, we got a sewer deal here, and he'll go down and, you know, this public, this private or whatever, so, you know, he communicates, you know, almost weekly on a basis of, you know, just to get input, and then also keeping in the loop what's going on. And a lot of the stuff is just called because, you know, the water treatment plant, you know, part of it, so, but I can see the point of kind of knowing where it's at, because there's an ammonia pump now that had to be ordered, you know.
Well, yeah, and we're kind of the representation community for these guys.
Right, yeah.
So it's kind of, I guess, I don't know what you call it, cohesion, I guess, you know, but, I guess it wouldn't be like really micromanagement, it'd be more kind of getting on the same page, right,
Yeah.
I guess.
Cause he's the expert on that plan, he just, that's my opinion, but just, he knows it inside and out.
It's obviously valuing that and that sort of stuff, but maybe just more communication, if there has been saying like, hey, our road grader broke down, let's call Jimmy, instead of Jimmy hearing it about it at a later, I'm not saying Adam does that,
No.
but just an example.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
so yeah, unit confusion and having more communication, that's obviously good for sure. Especially now that we're single portfolio again, which helps focus, you know, and that sort of thing, so.
And I think that's kind of what his intention too with that superintendent report, just kind of keep, so some of that stuff that gets left in the back burner, because you forget about it or whatever, but now it's coming, at least you're getting a report on it, just to keep, to help you guys see this more in the know too versus it just being a single person or whatever it may be, but, I think that definitely fits in, you know.
So then we could tentatively pass the preliminary budget if we're okay with that, and then we could make cuts between now and October, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and I mean, we can have another meeting where there's, you want to look at it, you really want to hone in, drill down on it, I mean,
It's just that we gotta get the preliminary done today.
yes. And like I said, we do have to have a public hearing too, so,
Right, but there's just kind of two opposites going, because we want to see, well, I don't want to say we want, it'd be a good idea to be high with this upcoming legislation, but at the same time, we don't want to be a deficit spending, because it's not sustainable in my opinion. So, I guess just from what we've talked about so far, maybe that 50,000 with equipment, just in there, just because we can't do it again. It can increase. With that, cut the beautification to what it was before, and then if anyone else has any other suggestions, I guess.
Not to be mistaken, we're talking about, this is all the general fund, right? Yeah, general fund, it's just categorized out.
yep.
So it can move, and anything in here can move around.
Within the general, yes, so if we put it today, but then we decide that we want to take that equipment fund from 50,000 to 45,000, we could put that 5,000 where we feel it more necessary somewhere else, yes, because we're not changing ultimately that end number. We can't, we'd have to finagle to keep that so it doesn't go over, but yes, we can move those numbers around, as long as we don't increase it.
So like each one of our portfolios, we could kind of tear this down and then look at what our highest priority would be. And then, if we didn't have to spend it, then it'd go to benches and, lights and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Maybe that'd be an approach.
and I can even send you, I'll send you the report today of, for the street, where we're at for this year. I just, finished my day test last night, so I can send you that. But then it's not so overwhelming for numbers, I'll just see if you will want to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. And that way then you can look at that more in depth too for where you're at for this, so.
And since we can move that, 50,000, if I'm not mistaken with my napkin head map, would be about a year-over-year increase of what we had from this year to the one prior.
We put it, yeah, or more, because we put in 10,000 for 24.
Or sorry, I mean overall. So like overall, our mills and actually how much we're levying is how much, like, what was this last year? We said it earlier, but I can't remember exactly what it was. Like you said,
345 for the general.
the $20,000 increase is what we're doing this year. So if we had that 50, and then like as we've been talking, we've had possibly 2 years with the legislature slowdown or whatever, that would cover us for those 2 years. Yeah. So then, if we can't increase ever again, if that does go, that would at least cover us until there was a solution.
Correct. And then probably.
Yeah, by about like $6,000. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's a question. Okay, under memorial building, 131, down on telephone, is that also internet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Not that we have to have telephone, but internet is pretty much a must, right?
Yeah, I've asked about getting rid of the cell phone too, but I don't know, some people don't have cell phones, or, I mean, this day and age, that's how they call and get a hold of us.
Right.
But I believe you have to have a telephone to have the internet,
Yeah,
is what West River said.
You look at that bill, that telephone's not the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, just want to clarify.
And I just changed that to telephone/internet.
Yeah, that's,
It's all, yeah, kind of, it's all West River, so it's kind of with all lumped into one.
okay.
But I can
Yep,
make it more,
that's what I was thinking,
yeah.
just for clarification. That's like out at the airport too, I think, they have telephone under there, but I'm sure it's internet as well.
But they have their own budget.
Right, but I'm just saying, it's listed that way.
Right, but
Yeah,
that's under their mill levy.
Yep. yep.
Then, with these specials, like Eric comes in and talks about Custer Drive needs to be done. Do we look at anything like, with our next project, like when some of these specials are gonna start coming off to like, Eric designing Custer Drive, like, well, do we look at it like, well, X amount of specials are gonna come off, and so we're looking at not raising the taxpayers' money because some of the stuff would come off, then we could look at a project and that would be a plan,
I mean,
or,
depending on where we're at, we just had 3 come off. We do have another 3 or 4, and we have 2 I know for sure coming off. Again, as you can see, I mean, this whole front page is kind of blank now with where these are at. So you can see where the last payment in 2024.
and that's services one?
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
We had a couple come off in 22, then we had those 2 come off in 23.
Well, it's debt service fund,
Oh, okay.
We have these couple coming off in 24. So it's kind of nice because then we are adding that new one on. And then we're kind of then limited for when the next ones come off, because we're looking at a couple of years after that. 25, or 28, 28, 28, 28, 28, 28, and then we have a couple 35. Those are the newer state projects. And then 37. So after this chunk comes off, we're looking at another 4 years. Well, 3 years, I guess.
like that bottom of, 404, where we got total revenues, expenditures, difference, that one's kind of in the negative too, right? Or is that where that 10,000 come in to try to make that up?
Yeah.
Or,
I don't know, because you can kind of see as you go through all of these line by line where we're sitting, for what we're receiving and what we're projected. Now, half the reason why some of that could be deficit is that people aren't paying their taxes yearly. They pay them every 2 years or however, a good bulk of them we do receive yearly, so that estimated yearly payment is what we're receiving based off of their expenditures. Why some of these are not receiving the revenue to match the expenses, I don't know. Nexus, I just believe, did a whole review on this, they couldn't find it. That's why we did that rebonding of that one, to cut that to help because we were very deficit in it a couple of years ago. Either better, but it's still not great.
but, I mean, that's gonna be something like we could, when we talk to Eric, internally, like, we should look at these specials. We almost gotta look at more, keeping the roads we got maintained, and then before we do a project, kind of look at the sheet maybe, I suppose, or, so we don't,
It wouldn't hurt, because then you know when some of these are expiring, yes.
Especially with some of the interest charges, I was like looking at it, I was like, I don't want to charge for that, you know?
Yes, the interest is
It's crazy.
in some of these,
Yeah.
interest on what?
some of these bonds.
Aren't they, I thought they were like 2% or something, they're not, they're,
Well, this one, not all of them I don't think are. Some of them are 4%.
2,000 a year, or
Yeah,
10,000, 15,000. We're paying a lot in interest, like a lot, 36,000 a year. That's a big boy, you know, it is.
is there anything through the Bank of North Dakota? I mean, I thought at one point we were getting pretty good interest rates.
yeah, like I guess new one will be 2%. Do we look at going through the work and spending the money to refinance some of those?
Yeah, maybe. But
Yeah.
what you're thinking of is the bit that looks like a buy down Bank of North Dakota fund. It's just kind of a grant, but not really. Yeah.
When
So
it
this
is
is a
up
good
to
thing.
2% of John, from what I understood, right?
I think so, yeah.
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 It's still a good thing.
Yeah. But it wouldn't work to try and refinance.
Oh, no.
Right.
No.
Yeah, 'cause I always thought they were at a really good interest rate, like 3 or 4%, yeah.
Yeah, some of them are. Some of them are good, but yeah, some of those, yes, the 4% sitting at the rate.
Where do we, is that on here somewhere? I'm not seeing it, or,
The interest?
yeah,
No, they're in a whole different spreadsheet.
okay.
Maybe we could talk about that at the finance, when we have our finance
Sure.
meeting. We have to talk about that. I just think we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because at the front page we had at 10,000, well, we're still gonna be 18,000 short then?
And some of them, yeah.
Why can they go 3 years saying, or are you saying any year, or 3 years?
A person can go 3 years delinquent on their taxes before the
Oh.
county fund will come in and take it.
Oh, okay,
And there are some people that play that.
Yes,
okay.
they pay an interest, but yes, they can go 3 years without having to pay their property taxes, and then the county will come in and take it from them.
And there's no way we can change terms, there's nothing to change.
I think that's actually state law.
Yep,
Yeah, that is.
yep.
Used to be 5.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Really?
And they brought it back to 3, 15 years ago. Yeah, I remember at school, it was 5. When I was in school place. Then they brought it back to 3, probably 10, 15 years ago. After they changed legislation, so. Yeah, 5 years is a long time out. You play that tax game, you know.
It's Schedule E, that's, okay, that's sewer and water funds, garbage?
Yep.
Well, we looked at the water one, you know, because we have that. I think in the last year, a year and a half, we changed rates twice, you know, just try to, until like you said, we get that bond on. We try to keep that self-sustaining.
Yeah, and then I'm not concerned about the water after this one comes off.
Right.
And that's the one you're talking about with what's coming off? That's the,
One of the bonds was for, the next one is for the water treatment update.
Yeah.
Update.
And that's $125,000 per year.
Right, but I can't remember what the first one was for. That's coming off. this
Yeah, I
year.
have them all in the book.
Yeah, but then, it was for water, so it's being paid by water. Right.
Yeah, so debt principal per year currently is $240,000.
And
With
then,
10,000 in interest and, service charges that we pay to them as well, and that will drop in half after next year. And then I think there's 8 years remaining on the other one.
and then we try to project when membranes will have to be replaced, and so we build a little bit into the water rate, so that we have water, a fund built up for membrane replacement, because that's good.
Yeah, and we did put that on the water bill as well to try to recoup some of that cost,
Yeah.
because that was a huge hit when we replaced them.
You're about to lose it, thank you.
And if you guys, ever have questions, and if you want to just come in and sit down, I will try to answer some of these questions for you, or get you the answers, or we'll figure out why it is what it is, or how to work it to go forward. I'll take any help that's on the budget that you guys want to provide. I'm not opposed to that at all. Or if you have a question on the funds, or what they are, or what it is, I'll help.
You kind of seen what we had set up over there for jobs, through Dropbox.
Yes.
Do you think any system like that would kind of work for communication here?
That'd probably be a different conversation, I think. But,
Well,
you mean with budget stuff?
or like even commissioner to auditor and Adam and stuff like that.
We have to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a water salesman, going back to that. Is there other towns that sell water, are we comparable to those three?
I don't know what other towns do, or how they do it. Yeah. I can ask Adam.
I think comparable rates, you would have to look at their cost per gallon of actually drinking water.
Right.
And that's what we look at, because some cities, depending on volume, more or less, it costs them more to make water than it does us, or it may not cost them as much.
Right.
So it wouldn't
Just go by percentage.
it wouldn't be a fair comparison that way, so.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we figured out, is our cost of producing it.
Which can also always be looked at the end of the year as well too. And now Adam does provide that in his report, so we can look at it on a more monthly basis versus being alarmed where I know our water is down for the year, because of how wet June was.
Yeah.
So, which could also be, and we do kind of determine that too, how we determine water rates. It could be looked at for the water salesman to see if it's compensating for that or where we're at, and then that is also how we are determining McLean Sheridan's rate on a yearly basis based off of what they've used from us. And our gallons for that year, so we'll use 24 to determine what their 25 rate will be.
But if we find a city that is comparable in what it costs to produce it, then it's a better comparison.
Yeah.
And rates are out there. AE's West did a survey. I believe they do it every year where they do put it out there for a lot of the towns if they participate what their water charges are, what the sewer charges are, and that kind of information is out there. I know it was all in a booklet. I think we have not received 2014, I don't think. So that information is there too, that they do a lot of that stuff to determine where we're at. We're higher in monthly water, what we charge, but we're lower in sewer than what we charge just based off what I know when I looked in 22 based off of this data.
Okay.
So that's an option too.
Right, where our normal city resident consumers are per gallon compared to what we're selling, and just
We're higher.
For water sales, I think we're fairly cheap.
Yeah.
To be
Not as
honest,
far as, not the salesman, but as far as the actual residents, we're a little on the higher side.
we are.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is also kind of why I'm hoping we can keep our rates where they're at, knowing, except I think we're okay for next year, and then knowing that that service comes off. just because that is, one of the things I hear.
I mean, specifically on the sales thing, this is just leaning on terror, if it's like the same price, you know, it's like, can't you make money on that? Like, couldn't you specifically make money on selling it?
And we do, and that's why we had to increase it, because we had to recoup those now costs that we have with this.
But do we make money, but if you only factor in the cost produced, are we making money though? Like, is there margin and like that?
Right, but I mean, that's, you figure out, yeah, we're making money on the water.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we wouldn't have
Yes,
money to
we
fund
do
it.
make money.
I
off what
understand
sales.
that, but I'm saying like even more if it's like comparable to residents. Yeah, obviously, we can talk about that more later too, but.
I guess what I meant is that we figure out how much it costs to produce it, and that's what one of the factors that we use on how much we got to charge.
Oh, okay.
We figure in the factors of membranes over years, you know,
Mhm.
figure that in, you know, all of that stuff gets factored in, so that we have something built up. We try to figure out, okay, what if the pump goes down, all that stuff, so that we have a reserve in that. So it's just one of the factors that's used in.
That makes sense.
But you're right, you know, we should be charging at least as much as residents are charged for.
It's cheaper than residents?
Pardon?
It's cheaper than residents?
I'd have to look and see.
That's not water truck.
That's the girl.
That's true, that's true, yeah, and they like playing in the pool, so. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, to fill it up.
Talking about Sheridan Rural Water, is there any kind of breakout compared to like what we're charging them to supply them water versus, just for the citizens? Like, do we know if we're winning or losing on what we're giving to Sheridan Rural Water, or how's all that work?
Yeah.
Yes, why
There's a,
the back end of it, and I've asked, and I'm going to ask again, because like we used to have it separated out, for like water charges, and I guess I did separate out for budget purposes based off of where we're at this year for receiving money from them. It all gets lumped into water charges, and I wish it was separate.
cause don't they share in the cost of different repairs and maintenance and stuff like that?
They do,
On
yeah.
top of the actual water usage rate. So,
And that's where, that fluctuation would change of how much water they're using. So they give us their meter readings every month, McLean Sheridan does, and then we enter that in, and they are charged based off of that.
But we don't have a meter going out to them, showing how much is going?
And I have a new one out there, and then she reads it every year.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually just replaced their water meter, I wanna say last year. So Ann reads it and sends an email to us, and then we can keep track of what their usage is every month, the same way that we would do with like all our meter readings, saying they use 6,000 gallons. However, that fluctuates then determines like our water membranes, for example, when we bought those, there was an agreement between the city of Lockwood and McLean Sheridan that they would pay 10% of all those costs. Well, in looking at some of these, we have determined that they're more at using 12%. So then, they have agreed to pay 12% of those larger costs, say if we were to do membranes next year, and their usage this year was 12%, they would pay 12% of all those different costs.
And I totally trust everybody there, and I'm not accusing, but it's almost kind of like if they give you the readings, it's kind of like going and getting gas, walking into your tent to a guy and telling him how much gas you actually got. You know, as a corporation, shouldn't we have a meter knowing how much we're discharging to them?
to put a meter on our end.
Well, I'm just saying, is that feasible, or is that, then you'd know you're,
Checks and balances.
yeah. But, so, maybe I'm not seeing it, but is there anything McLean Sheridan, is that right here, that's, intergovernmental revenue, is that where we're looking to what they pay in, is that?
Yeah, basically just because I broke theirs out, because it's all lumped in as one, when we received that, our old system had it broken out, and I've asked for this, like I said, I'll have to ask again if they can do it, I don't know that they can. So then I think, like, we can go to the utility billing, we can pull that report to see, but of exactly what we're receiving for revenue from them.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, we're in a $22,000 deficit as well. You know,
Yep.
it's gonna be nice to,
And that will change after this last debt service, and then I could take different wages out of there, I suppose, but some of them are paid out of there, that's kind of how we determined it. It might be a finance, HR thing, if we want to discuss how wages are, the percentage, if we want to change those.
like, what would be in our checking account today? I mean,
2,121,000 something.
okay. So, I mean, obviously I have loans for trees and, that debt is getting bought outright, I believe, right?
Out of sewer.
And then, so I mean, we got 2 million, so just trying to
Well,
revenue.
$1 million of that total is, how much of that is one cent?
That's just our general.
Well, that's just for example,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
Plus 1 cent. That's on top.
Plus then 1 cent is,
But that-
a whole other bank account, yes,
Yeah,
but that's
and then
separate.
it's limited what you can use that for, so.
Correct.
What kind of debt what kind of loans do we have now? I mean, that we're paying on?
These all right in this debt service. So you will see back in March, we paid a, Bank of North Dakota one. And we have another Bank of North Dakota one coming out. So we pay 2 interest payments a year, and then we pay, the principal and interest payments. And we have one that will be withdrawn out of our bank account in October. That one comes out.
Is that on here somewhere? That we're talking about now? The revenue somewhere?
Essentially, it's all of those. Now, if you want,
Oh, it's all the special.
it's all the specials, yes.
It's special pretty much our only loan.
Yes.
So, I mean, on paper it looks bad, but it's actually not too bad.
Yeah, our only loans that we have are our specials. And, I mean, not to discredit them, it is a huge hit. But,
So is there any more discussion on if we want to increase the budget, or do we want to work with this budget? I guess I'm looking at the. Because if we don't, we could always lower it, then we can't raise it, so.
So like more increases than the 50,000 for the equipment? So you know what, where's this outline, I don't know.
In general, it's,
I'm seeing the other increases.
This 420,853, this is what we're proposing to raise it to. On the first page here.
yes,
Was that with that 50,000 we were talking about?
no. So I'm gonna go put that in right now. Okay, so just to clarify, right now, in that vehicle account, it's budgeted for 15,000. You wanna raise it so the total is 50,000, not raise it by 50,000.
I mean, I was thinking raising it by 50.
Okay, that's,
But,
no, I wanted to know I had the correct number.
Oh, no, that's fine. Could be 65, but yeah, whatever. Obviously, with everyone else's input, but, just the reasoning being that would cover us for the 2 years if that was an issue, so they tied in it to And then we just be covered in a pending move, then other increases beyond that because of this measure, sure, you could do that, but if it's necessary, it's covered, not as much, you know,
It's hard because, yes, like I said, there's the what if and the unknowns. It puts us in a bad situation, but I mean, I guess it's not just going to be us, it's going to be everybody, and it's not as like we're not, our levy isn't low by any means. So we're not cutting ourselves short. I mean, I don't think we could honestly max it out at 105, that's just not feasible. My opinion, personally.
Under the general fund, we're in a deficit on the sheet of 20,511, and then in the sewer and water, we're at 22,928. That's 51,439. Knowing that we have to, at some point, upgrade some piece of equipment, we put in the general fund an increase of, let's say, 50,000. That would cover the deficit, but then, so that kind of turns these into the black, per se. We'd still look at places to trim that, but, I don't know, does that make any sense? I mean, we're raising it 50 for equipment purposes, but that does kind of take these two into the black, you know, take us out of deficit by raising that.
Well, equipment purchases can also be done with 1 cent sales. You know, there's few things that can be done with 1 cent and 1 cent in return. But equipment purchases and infrastructure, and that's kind of what's nice about 1 cent sales is that you don't have to take it out of your revenue or your, you know what I'm saying?
This is 1 cent scale, that's not in here, right? We're not looking at that now.
No. That is, 1 cent is considered under a home rule charter, and that can only be changed by the vote of the people. And it's specifically designated how that money goes into 3 different accounts. I guess essentially it is in here, so you can see it. It's under the 300 account. So like we have our savings and then we have our sales and use tax. I have a whole different spreadsheet that's probably easier to look at. Sorry, page 103 under special revenue fund. It's right after the general.
Really, is it this one here? Or no?
It should be just before that. Because that goes towards that service. So that's it, yep, it's before that. Special revenue fund, see up on top, so then if you start at page 103, like I just highlighted on the bottom, I think there's a CD, is that highlighted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, the page previous to that. You can kind of see underneath here where it's the sales and use tax down here.
Yeah.
This is a whole separate bank account to kind of match the fees. We see every month, what was spent on sales and use tax. So,
This is the 1% here then? Or no? Or, am I missing?
yeah, how it's all broken down, and honestly, there's a better spreadsheet that probably could make, based off of, taxes, yeah, so we have our interest revenue here, then we have our community, on the next page, the community infrastructure. Community development of streets and then economic development projects. So those are like our 3 different categories. We have a 2 cent, sales tax. So 1 whole cent of that goes to infrastructure, and then 95% we'll say of the 1 cent goes to the development of streets, and the other 5% of that 1 cent goes to the economic development. I believe is how it's all separated out. Where they can only be based on, they can only be used for those things.
You said you had speed on that to kind of break that out?
Yeah, so like to see the monthly things too, and I mean, I can really send that to you if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's just a better, it's easier to see that we're receiving 25,000, say this, $300 in sales or interest, $200 goes here, $5,000 goes here, and just somehow it's all broken down. It's a lot easier to comprehend
Yeah.
visually than,
Yeah,
so I can send it to you too.
thank you.
Yep. And that cannot be changed without going to the Board of People.
From like a long-term strategy standpoint, when we're budgeting here, just because we cut a budget doesn't mean that spending is gonna get cut. Like, let's say we had 200 for bug spray, and then we still sprayed the parks the same amount, just because we budgeted 100 does not actually save anybody any money, right? Like, we have to change the habits and the actual spending for that to happen, right?
Correct.
And that's kind of where we're at, where, like, I do understand we want to trim that and that sort of stuff, but it's, you have to change the after, not the before, to actually have an impactful change. With our budget right now, what gets submitted this time is what it will be, right? So then from there, if we went big and high, because we don't know what legislation will do, after that, then we could maybe, as department heads or portfolio holders, whatever it may be, hey, we spent 400 on bug spray, let's cut it back to 200 again, or let's try and have this budget. So it's more of a habit and small decision-making thing rather than like the big picture, I guess, from how I see it, at least. But,
And that had to be stated for a while, that, running out and buying unnecessary things because you think you need them, you need it to stop. So it has gotten better. For that aspect of some of those things, because it got out of control for a little bit.
oh yeah, and I wasn't like getting it down to that level. It was more of just like a conceptually, like big picture sort of
Right.
thing. So like, let's say huge engineering fees, and then, oh, you guys have a co-op engineer there, and it's 1/10 the price. Well, boom, 1/10 saved.
Yeah.
And just because you budgeted less for an engineer, you still have to pay them. You have to find the solutions to save the money, not just plan to save the money. Exactly, right. So that's and all I'm trying to say is, like, just because we cut and make a budget look nice does not actually mean anything in the long term. It has to change on the back end.
Right. This is, I mean, literally, more or less, this is strictly just a paper.
Right.
You want to try to abide by it the best that you can and do it, but unless those, like you said, proper actions are things, it means nothing.
Mm-hmm. But it does this time.
Yeah.
Because of
This time, yes.
right. So
Yeah.
it is kind of a weird, it's a very strange situation. Yeah.
And we have to be really careful too, because, I don't know, say we do get this information from you and our portfolio, you look at the numbers, be careful how you talk to you or Adam or anybody else, so you don't micromanage somebody and, lose somebody because you're riding the butt or something, but, I mean, it can get kind of dicey that way too.
I don't think a monthly check is bad though. If you want daily, that might be,
Yeah.
or things, but there again, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing,
Checking,
so, and getting those reports monthly, I think it's good.
yeah.
It does, it gives that check over us, and then you can, if there is nothing over, then Adam and I can say something, but if you see it as well, it's like, okay guys, like this is out of control, so we need to stop, then it might have more authority coming from it. I mean, right now, I don't think that disrespect is there,
Right.
coming from Adam or I, but then coming from you guys too, they might be like, okay, they're serious about this.
Right.
And like I said, it's a monthly check for you guys as well to be, and then come budget time too, you have more of an idea, or you see things along the way that need to be changed, or, we know we need fixing. You're more educated to say, hey, no, I want 20,000 here,
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
helps you understand more too.
Well, if you run the business over there, I mean, you have to run these numbers to even make a decision. I mean, you can't run off emotion. I mean, you're gonna need to have the numbers to make a decision.
Right.
So,
And that's where, I'm more input from you, I will take, I'm not.
I got a question. Under special revenue funds, the at number 16, snow removal. That's our normal cost for snow removal.
I have put it that way, yes, okay, so 2 years ago, we had changed it. Where I needed snow removal tracked. Hours, equipment, purchases, everything, like it was all lumped together with highway street, repairs and maintenance. Because it doesn't help us if case of like snow emergencies and those kind of things, because I need to have those concrete numbers for overtime, for repairs and maintenance, and all that stuff. So yes, we have separated that out so that I can track snow removal separately. In the case of like an emergency being called, then we can receive some of that money back.
Right. And that's where you're down below on 39, you have emergency.
Yes.
And then snow removal.
Yes.
Okay. And in how do you figure out the year? You start in January and then you end in December, right?
Yes.
So far, do you know how much of that we've used in 2024?
Yeah, I've seen that too, to where 2023 is end of year, 24 is of 630, so it's kind of, gotta be careful on 2024 because it's not all,
done, right?
yeah.
Nothing was done with that one. Like that snow emergency, okay, so that snow emergency is for like those emergency snowstorms, those big ones, where nothing was being tracked separately for those ever. We just changed that, to be able to compensate for that. So I didn't have anything, I just go with it before that, some of Chris's, when we hired him, he gets paid out of that emergency fund. Some of the other basic snow removal stuff gets paid out of the normal, like highways and streets, because it's your light ducting, it's part of your day-to-day basics. It's those big snowstorms, where the governor will declare an emergency, that those funds will all be paid out of, so that we can compensate for those, so that we can submit that information to the emergency management and recoup those costs. We haven't been able to do that in the past because they weren't broken out that way.
Right.
And so when I was looking at spreadsheets, I'm like, I don't even know where to start because it wasn't done that way. So now we've changed it, for them guys to all track it differently for that. And unfortunately, that was the couple years that we had those big snowstorms. So.
And that's your phases kind of here, because you got snow removal up here on 16.
Yes.
So that's your normal.
Correct.
And then down here is for an emergency, maybe you dump on or you got higher Chris or.
Yeah, like that April snowstorm that we got, those couple in December, so that number we can knock down. We don't have to keep that at 10,000, we can knock that down. Yes, where that one is for those emergency big snowstorms, those April snowstorms, those.
Hard to predict though.
It is.
Yeah, no, we had 36 and then we had 8,900. We got 20 on the budget, so we're kind of double of what we actually use. So I don't know.
What's the other one?
The
highways and streets.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I'm following you.
I'm kind of wondering, I just want to talk to Adam to find out when our workers put the ridge of snow on Main and then they got to come back later and remove it. It would be more cost effective just to get rid of it right away, because then when it melts, we're doing extra sanding and all those other issues. I don't know.
Yep.
Something we'll have to sit down with Adam and talk to him about to see if he's got the personnel and stuff to.
And I know sometimes it is, when did it snow? was that March? They had that snowshoe and they left the ridge, well, there wasn't much,
Mhm.
but then when it warmed up that day, you have all this side of Maine icier than crap.
Oh, yeah.
So then, is it,
Safety hazard.
it is, and then you don't stand, so would it have just been easier to come through, swipe it off, and, you know, I mean, yeah, that's a discussion to have, of how,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it might not get to us for a couple weeks, and by then, you know, the whole south side of Maine is up to the curve, it's full of ice. And then we're, you know, working on that, trying to clean that out, and bringing extra resources. Something to talk about.
And that, I mean, that's a good example of the actionable steps, like those, it's gonna be those little things from all of us in our different places, doing those sorts of things will affect the change, actually, so,
Yep.
it's a good example.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve this preliminary, or?
Yeah, were we gonna leave it at the 420, or were we gonna increase it by 50, or?
That'd be, I guess, just give the discussion, so I make a motion to approve the budget with the two changes, the extra $50,000 to the equipment fund, which would be a total of 55 this we expect, and then a cut of 4,000 to beautification to bring it back to its 2024, 2024 levels. That makes sense.
I'll second the motion.
I guess this is where we discuss it, we did discuss what we want to do, so.
Any more discussion?
So, just talking about the 1% sales tax, is that, and I apologize, probably told you, but is that in here? Like, is that 1% in this anywhere?
strictly for numbers wise, for you to see where we're at and what's projected for the next year, yes.
Okay,
For usage, no,
okay,
because that is based on request
okay,
and a motion to use those funds and what it's for. Or for, like the senior centers are come in and request, $25,000 for repairs, and then it's a commission approval and go based on that. So, for to use it for expenses, no.
okay, yeah, so long story short, it's figured into here, and we talked about that.
Yes.
And
Based off of revenue, yes.
so with that 1% sales tax, we're still showing a deficit with the 1% sales tax included in here. I say this much.
For the general, or as a whole?
As a whole, I guess, when we're looking at that we're in a deficit of 51,000 on our budget.
So if you were to say no, we would not be. Because that is a whole separate scenario and a whole separate bank statement.
Okay,
That figure is just included under there to be used for those special revenue funds. So is it included on this bottom of, let me go to the total on that page. It would be, so you can't project the expenses to come out of there, I guess, for the year. You can only project the income, and there's like over $1 million in our sales and use tax fund, if that helps, put things into perspective.
and that's not on here, or, so we're not,
The basic revenue coming in, yes, because like, so we're projected to have,
I guess what line item is the 1% be, or,
I'll send you the other spreadsheet. I think it'll help you understand it a whole lot better than looking at this.
okay. Yeah, cause I just wanna make sure we're not getting money that I'm not seeing here,
Right,
and then like raising taxes, but we actually had it somewhere else.
yeah.
I guess where I'm coming from.
I just wouldn't like to use the sales and use tax as a it's a safety net, but it's very specific of what we can use those things for.
Okay,
You know,
you can't count on it for every line item. That's no problem.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and you can't use it to take into consideration of having that money for the general fund.
Okay.
Could we use it for, like, we buy down the street project that we're doing right now, $400,000,
Mm-hmm.
that was used out of sales and use tax
Okay.
for, the infrastructure, this part of it, or the street part, because it was used for streets.
Okay.
So,
We could use it to go buy down the 4% interest thresholds that are hitting us. Maybe?
I don't know if there's a legality with that because it's already put into place, it's not new.
Okay.
But it is something we can check on.
And I'm getting on, back to the thing on here, sorry. Okay, that answered my question.
Okay.
I guess
I think the request has to be made before the purchase. You know, and like I said, it'd be a good idea. I don't know what the legality of it though.
Yeah.
Because it's not, it's interest, and I'll double check.
Right, yeah, and I thought I'll just bring that up here because we had a motion, and
That's okay.
I was just trying to
Part of
clarify.
the discussion.
Well, no, it is further discussion, because, the motion's to raise it 50,000 to the Singapore going to need to.
Yeah.
And that's,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think, you know, equipment can be purchased out of one time too. Like that white pickup was purchased separately out of one time.
Yeah.
We could use that 1% for anything that's gonna be anything over 2%, where you wouldn't have to take out a loan, like a pickup or a
Right.
whatever. Instead of taking anything that's above 2% interest, if you're not gonna down with 1%. Probably.
I get what you're saying.
No, I agree, yeah, trying to utilize it as much as possible instead of taxing everybody.
That's it, as much as I can.
Yeah.
It's there to use instead of, like, taxing it when we have the funds sitting there.
If you could send out that 1 cent
I will.
information.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 And
Okay, when would we like to have the public hearing? It has to be after September 7th and before October 7th.
So do you wanna, our meeting is
September 9th.
September 9th.
and I will be at that meeting. So,
Well, that would be kind of, you wanna, do we have the public hearing? I guess anytime after the 7th. A lot of times we'll have it the same night as the commission.
It has been done, previous to that, but it also can be a whole separate meeting too,
Right,
so.
yeah. A lot
It
of
just
times
has to be after September 7th, before October 7th.
you usually have the public hearing like a half hour. You say you have it at 5:30 and a lot of times nobody comes. Anyway.
Would you be okay having it at the same night, Mark, or would you prefer to be there for that one?
I would be fine. I think I'll be in contact with Chelsea and then it's missing.
Yeah, it's okay. I would just have it at 9. Instead of coming back another night.
Right.
Just do it at 5:30.
5:30 September 9th,
Right.
got it.
Yeah. And if it runs over, you just start the other meeting a little bit later. So it'll be with you, Jim?
Oh, can we do that?
Yeah, I think,
I'm sorry.
Do what?
Can we start a meeting early if it's been posted?
No. If that one runs past 6 o'clock, then you just have to start.
Oh, I
If
was
you're here
gonna
at
say,
5:30, nobody shows up, we just get to know each other better, because you can't start your meeting till 6.
and that's, sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought, well, we could do that.
I'm going the other direction.
No, it's perfect.
Yes, 5:30 September 9th. I will get this minute for that.
Make it good,
Thank you.
You can declare it done, you don't need a motion. It's up to you.
Meeting adjourned.